Welcome to The Secrets of Success. By following the proven techniques of the guests who appear on this series, you'll learn that even successful people run into detours and failures, and how you can apply their success techniques to change your life.
You're now listening to the most unique show on radio, the show dedicated to making you a success. Tom Wheelwright wants you to behave like the wealthy and amass tax-free wealth. Today, he'll tell us how. Tom, thanks for being with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me with you. It is great to be on your show.
Tom, I have to tell you, and we talked a little before the show, I really love your book. And this sounds strange that two people are talking about taxes and the word love enters in there. It's simple title, Tax-Free Wealth. But I started reading that and I said, oh my God, there's so many ways I could be saving more money. And today I think perhaps more than any time in the last 10 years, all of us are looking to save a little here or there, cut back. And of course, nobody really likes to pay taxes.
Well, that's for sure. And frankly, the fastest way to put money in your pocket is to reduce your taxes. It's the fastest, easiest way to do it.
You start off and you talk about that, and let me see if I have this right. The average person spends 25 to 35% of their life working to pay taxes. Now, I'm an old math teacher. 25 to 35%, if I'm right, that's something like 20 to 30 years, depending how long we live.
Yeah. Of your work life. I mean, you are definitely spending that much of your work life. So every year, you're spending the first 3 to 4 months of the year just making enough money to pay the government.
And then I have to do other things like pay school loans, pay the rent, pay the mortgage, pay for the car. Maybe we have children and or a spouse in there that needs a little help. So there's not too much left over for me right now.
No, there isn't. And that's why. And there are so many different types of taxes, right? We talk a lot about income tax, but you have sales tax, you have property tax, you have excise tax. There's so many different taxes and they add up pretty quick.
Now, your book is a very positive book. Most times when people are talking about taxes, it's boo, the government is bad, this is bad, etc. But you talk about it in a very positive sense, and I think that's what made me keep reading even after preparing for the show. And I'm saying, this is a really interesting book, and he's making good points, and it's very readable, too. You seem to kind of like the tax law. Tell us why.
Well, I love the tax law because I actually see the tax law differently than most people. Most people see the tax law as a way for the government to extract more money from them. And I actually have studied the tax law for 40 years. And first of all, it's a great puzzle. It's a game to play. And on top of that, though, when you really look at the tax law, it's really just a series of incentives. It's looking at if the government wants something done, then they know that people hate paying taxes. Even the government knows that. And so the easiest way to get money as an incentive to somebody to do something the way the government wants it done, say invest in a particular investment, whether it's clean energy, for example, is the big one right now. If the government wants you to do that, the best way for them to encourage you to do that is to give you a tax break for it.
And thanks to you, rather than kind of fight the system, you're the one who looks at it for us and says, hey, if you put your money over there or take this deduction or do this, you can save a whole lot of money. And this is all legal on the up and up. But let me stress that. Am I correct?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I'm a CPA. The worst thing in the world for me would be to do something that was contrary to the law. It's pretty simple. How much tax you pay depends on your situation. And so we always say, if you want to change your tax, you have to change your facts. And anybody can do that. You can change your facts.
I'd like to repeat that again for our audience.
So if you want to change your tax, you need to change your facts. And
I love that saying. And now that encapsulates everything. So if someone is listening, you heard the whole show, you can go away right now. But if you want to save some more money, you better listen to Tom. So simply put, if you want to change your tax, change your facts. Now, how would you explain that, though, if we were talking in an elevator?
Well, I'd probably give you an example.
Okay.
So a lot of people say, well, I'd like to deduct my vacation. Well, great. Well, change what you do on your vacation. If you spend 4.5 hours a day on vacation, actually doing something business related that needs to be done wherever you are, let's say you're investing in real estate and you're looking at real estate in that location, then that trip becomes deductible. Well, now what you have is a choice. Do I want to spend 4.5 hours a day looking at real estate or doing business? Or do I want to spend no hours a day and I just want to take the vacation and pay the tax? But the job of tax-free wealth, and frankly, the job of a good tax advisor is to give their clients, to give you a choice. Do I pay the tax or do I change my facts and pay less tax?
So let me put this in kind of the layman's words, the way I would interpret that. If I wanted to go and look at some real estate and I said, you know what, Florida's a nice place in the winter. I will go down there. I'll start to look at a second home or a retirement place. I could, or a rental that maybe I want to rent out and make some money on. I could take a trip to Florida. There'd be many deductions, I guess, the airfare, where I stay, etc. And so long as I spend a certain amount of time each day going out and looking at either properties, etc., is that what you're saying?
Yeah, deductions are pretty easy. And this is one of the most basic ways to reduce your tax is look at an expense you would have otherwise, and let's do it in the way the government wants you to do it. And actually, then you can take a deduction for it. But there are certain rules. So it has to have a business purpose. So you can't a vacation home wouldn't work if you're looking at a vacation home. But if you're looking at a rental, it does. You know, one of the things about the tax law is the more you do for other people, the less tax you pay. So if you buy a house for yourself, you get a little bit of a tax deduction. But if you buy a house that you rent to somebody else, you get a much bigger tax deduction. And so it's really, to me, it's the way we look at the tax law and what does the government actually want done. And if we look at it from a positive approach, we get a positive result.
Now, again, we talked about this a little before the show. I'm sure a lot of people are saying now, well, this is great for those wealthy people who are buying extra homes and selling real estate. But right now I'm having trouble paying my school loan or paying the credit card at the end of the month. So I'm going to ask you the most basic question. A lot of our friends and neighbors, for all of us, are either teachers, nurses, policemen, firemen. They're accountants, they're managers of stores, they're small entrepreneurs. They run the pizzeria or the local restaurant. Does this work for them too?
It does. The law is the same for everybody. So everybody with the same facts gets the same result, just maybe fewer zeros, right? So that's basically what happens. Well, that means, and it's never been easier to start a side hustle, to start a business in your home, whether it's a teacher, tutoring, or, a fireman, for example, they've got a couple of days off during, every week. They work really hard for 2 days straight, and then they don't work for the next 3 or 4 days. Well, if that's the case, they could start a business during that time frame. So business is the number one tax incentive, by the way, not just in the U.S. tax law, but all over the world.
As I'm reading in your book, it seems like a lot of us are overlooking this. Is it just that it's out of sight, out of mind? I know you love it, and I can see how you're smiling about this. And reading your book, it's clear that you truly love what you do, and that's always great. I love to talk to those people because they're kind of beaming all the time and coming up with new thoughts. But why do the rest of us overlook this?
Oh, I think we're scared of it. The common saying is the two things that are inevitable in life are taxes and death, right?
Correct.
And I dispute the first, that taxes are inevitable. And I think there are doctors and scientists that would dispute that death is inevitable. So certainly taxes are not inevitable. There are plenty of people who legitimately, legally, pay little or no in taxes, even if they little or nothing in taxes, even if they make a lot of money. So you don't have to make a lot of money to pay little or no taxes. Actually, the tax brackets mean you probably will pay less in tax than somebody who's making a lot of money. But the opportunities to pay less tax are the same for everybody.
People can reduce their taxes, and I think directly from your book you say by simply learning the tax law, and I laughed at that section because I think, one, we would go into absolute fear of when we say learning the tax law. It would like trying to get me to skydive, and after reading the first page would either be asleep or say, I give up, I'd rather pay the taxes. In the real world, does that mean we go to someone like you or a good CPA or tax person?
Yeah, so it's pretty simple. You do have to know how the tax law works. That's why I wrote Tax-Free Wealth. I wrote it so the average person can know how the tax law works, and so that when you are working with your CPA, so you are working with the tax advisor, you know what they should be doing. And if they don't do it, then you can ask them the questions, make sure they are doing it. If they're not doing it, you find a better tax advisor. But the details are complex. The concepts are simple.
Tom, before we go further, I'd like to let our audience know that you're listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan. Our guest today is Tom Wheelwright. He's a CPA. He's written the book Tax-Free Wealth, How to Build Massive Wealth by Permanently Lowering Your Taxes. I love that subtitle. And Tom, will you tell us, is there a website where we can learn more?
There is. If you go to wealthability.com, just like it sounds, wealth and ability, wealthability.com. And actually, if you want a consultation, we'll actually do a second opinion on your tax return, see if there's something you could do.
Now, that's a great offer. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I want our audience also to know that because this is such an important topic, and I'm sure after the show someone's going to mention it to a friend and they're going to say, oh, I'm sorry, I missed that show. You can listen to the podcast of this show. Simply go to nccradio.org. That's nccradio.org. Look for the podcast. And the title of the show is Tax-Free Wealth with our guest, Tom Wheelwright. If you didn't get that information, I'll give it to you again in about 10 minutes, so get a pencil and paper out and you'll have it handy. When people are interested in doing this, is there an average amount that you tell them that if someone who is, again, let's take the more typical teacher, nurse, small town entrepreneur who has the restaurant or the gas station, is there a number that you'd say people could save just almost off the bat? Is it 5%, 7, 12?
On average, I'd say 10 to 30% of their taxes they ought to be able to save. Some of them can save more. Some of them can, if they're really willing to change their facts and willing to put in the effort. The one thing I can tell you is I can't change anybody's tax. I can only tell them how they change their tax because I can't change your facts. You have to change your facts. So most important is that you're willing to engage and you're willing to be part of the process. You can't just turn it over to somebody.
By the way, as I'm reading your book, too, this is not the type of book that you read, I guess, tax season. Most of us think of it as going till April 15th. This is not the type of book you read on March 28th and save all your tax. I mean, I guess you could reduce them and get some help, but it's basically setting up a plan. Simply, it's not difficult, but it's something that you have to set up and take advantage of the laws that are applicable to your lifestyle.
Well, think about it. Every day you're making money and every day you're spending money. So every day if you have the information, you can make a decision. Is that money I earn, is it taxed? And at what rate's it taxed? And is the money I spend deductible or is it not deductible? So every day we're making decisions that affect our taxes. We just don't know we're making that decision because we don't know we have a choice. And that's why I wrote Tax-Free Wealth. So everybody has a choice, whether you make $50,000, $500,000 or $50 million.
And what I like about that is, as you kind of alluded to in that answer, even if you don't take advantage of every possible tax advantage, and maybe some people say, wait, I just don't want to be doing that all the time. But if you can save an extra 4 or 5% off your taxes, you're talking usually in the thousands of dollars, if not more. So it's definitely something I would want to look into because if you're saving $1,000 or $2,000 or $10,000 this year, that means that same amount is usually available to you the following years. Am I correct? Well,
and if you look at the subtitle, it's how to permanently reduce your taxes. We're not talking about how to postpone your taxes to a later year. Most of the tax law is permanent tax reduction guidance and permanent tax reduction opportunity. It's only things like 401ks, IRAs. Those are temporary. But the permanent tax reduction is what most of the book is about. And it's what most of the law is about. And you're right. There are literally thousands of opportunities and you can pick and choose. You can say, well, this one works for me. For example, some people say, well, I don't want to invest in real estate, but boy, if I could just start a small side business, that would be great. Or, I'd start a business off my cell phone, right? Which you can do. I mean, I can do little things like that and have huge tax consequences that will increase the amount of cash flow I have. And think about this. And this is what I write in chapter 24 of the book. The last chapter is, what do you do with that money? Because if you have extra money and you invest that extra money, that becomes even more extra money.
I think all of us love the way you're thinking. And I was just thinking as you were talking about that, especially post-pandemic, most people took a hit in one form or another. Sometimes we had to lean back into our retirement accounts and to say, Hey, if you could save even a few $1,000s each year on taxes between a husband and wife, that could fund your IRA or go into some type of pension fund for later on in life. And of course, the more the better. If you can talk higher numbers, that's even better. And as you said, there's nothing wrong with this. Now, you mentioned in your book an LLC. Tell us what an LLC is and why did you even mention that? How does that fit into this?
Well, how you own your assets, whether it's your investment properties, your stocks, your business, how you own your assets will have a major impact on how much tax you pay. And an LLC is simply a limited liability company. So think of it like a corporation with flexibility. That's what it is. It has the protection against lawsuits that a corporation would have, but it has a lot more flexibility to it. What I love is so there's an old accountant joke when you ask an accountant what's 2 + 2, and the right answer for an accountant is, what do you want it to be? And with a limited liability company, I can actually do that. I can choose to tax that as a sole proprietorship, a partnership, a corporation, an S corporation. So I get to choose what I do with that, but it's still at the same time, it's giving me the same protection against those people who would like to come after my money.
Now, one of the questions, and I'm going to be our listeners here, I'm saying, if I'm hearing you talk, I'm saying, wait a minute, I can choose to be this one, this one, this one. I don't know all that stuff. I'm an English teacher. I love what I do. I'm there in class all day. In effect, are you saying not we ourselves, I mean, while we make the choice, this is with the help of a person like yourself, a professional, our own accountant, CPA, tax planner?
Yeah, for sure. You definitely want some professional advice, for sure, to handle the details of it. But it is very important that you understand the concepts. Again, that's why I wrote Tax-Free Wealth. But it's actually why we actually created a franchise of tax advisors, simply because the number one question I get when I'm traveling is, how do I find somebody like you here? And so we just decided, we just opened a franchise, and we have a bunch of franchisees around the world, around the country, actually, that serve local people.
So what I'm hearing, you took your own advice. While you're traveling, you opened up franchises promoting what you do.
Absolutely. I travel most of the time. I'm traveling for business, and I don't recommend anything. I don't talk about anything that I haven't tried myself.
And I want to tell our audience, like most of us, if you said to me, start reading something about taxes, I would say, do I have to? I would do everything to avoid that. I mean, next to root canal, I think, unfortunately, your subject is the most unpopular. But you're laughing because I said this before the show. This is a very readable book. Tom puts it in very simple terms that certainly I could understand, or I think I can with his help. That the average reader can go through. And then if you have a few problems, it at least alerts you to what's coming up. And then if you have problems, you either go to your own accountant or someone who helps you, or one of Tom's franchisees that knows these subjects and can get you started on the right path. And there's money to be saved out there. You're making the choice. So I guess it's fair to say we really shouldn't complain about taxes because we're paying them by choice. Is that right?
Well, that's what I think. You choose whether you want to learn about this or not. I will say that one of my favorite reviews of Tax-Free Wealth was that it made a great beach read. And I'm going, well, you're either really nerdy or that book is even better than I thought it was. So I do get a lot of that feedback, and we get a lot of, we have over 3,000 reviews, I think, on Amazon. And the reviews we get are, it's just an easy book to read, and it's an interesting book. It's full of stories, and it's something that anybody can sit down and read. And most people who read it, they'll start reading, and they will not put it down until they finished it.
And I think most of us tend to say, well, so-and-so is wealthy. And if we take anybody we see on the news and is a person of prominence or wealthy, oh, look how much they're making. And yet we hear last year they paid $11 in taxes, and we're paying thousands of dollars in taxes. But they're using the right people. They know what they're making the money in, and to do and to take advantage of these laws. And as you're saying, they're out there to be used. This is no trickery. This is no hanky-panky late night TV. This is the tax law, and you're a CPA. You're following the law.
I've been a CPA for going on 40 years now.
You just have the knack of making it more interesting than the others.
Well, you know what? I just don't think it's that hard. And so my job is to make it simple. right? If you get something that's really complex and can make it simple, then I think that's the funnest thing in the world to do is to make some. I mean, if I make taxes fun, easy, and understandable, I win. I mean, that's the game.
I think that's the title of your next book, I Make Taxes Fun. I would have to read that just to see how taxes could be fun. Tom, before we go further again, I'd like to let our audience know you're listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan. Our guest today is Tom Wheelwright. That's spelled WHEEL-WRIGHT. He's a CPA. He's written the book Tax-Free Wealth, How to Build Massive Wealth by Permanently Lowering Your Taxes. Key word there, permanently. Tom, would you tell us, is there a website where we can learn more?
Absolutely. If you go to wealthability.com, it's just like it sounds, wealthandability.com. And if you click on the free consultation, then we'll actually do a free second opinion on your tax return to see if there is something you can do. We've actually built software for this to help us out, make it a little more efficient for us to review your tax return.
And I think by now you can tell Tom really loves this stuff. And if for any reason you didn't hear the whole show or you want to find out more, first of all, I'd advise you to get the book. It's an easy read. It's not what you expect when you think about taxes. And if every chapter you look at and say, I could save money there, I could save money there, you're going to enjoy reading it. But you can also hear this information by going to our podcast at nccradio.org. That's nccradio.org. Just look for the show Secrets of Success and then look for the specific show Tax-Free Wealth with our guest, Tom Wheelwright. Tom, are there typical deductions that a lot of people just miss in your experience?
Yeah, I'll tell you the number one deduction people miss, and that is home office. People are scared. Even if they've got a small business or they may have a couple of houses investment properties that they own, small investment properties, they're afraid to take a home office deduction because they're afraid of an IRS audit. And they're afraid if they take that home office deduction, they're going to get audited by the IRS. That's just false information that was probably the case 30 years ago, but it hasn't been the case for a very long time if you report it properly on your tax return. So it really is a combination of take that home office deduction, because one of the things people forget, if you have a home office, then that first trip you take out, let's say you have a rental property and you're going to go see your rental property, that trip from your home to the rental property, that becomes a business deduction because your commute that morning was from your kitchen to your home office. It wasn't from your home. It wasn't from your kitchen to the rental property. So you actually increase your automobile expense deduction while you're taking a home office deduction. And that's one people miss. And I'll give you one other that's a really big one people miss. And that is meals. Typically, when we own a business, we spend time at least once a week, and we're probably with our spouse or partner, and we're having dinner or we're having lunch with them. We need to make sure that we claim that deduction. We have our documentation. We keep the receipt. We take a picture of it or we scan it, and that meal becomes deductible. So there are, you just think, if I've got a business reason for doing this and it's a legitimate business reason and I document it properly, it's probably deductible.
So you're saying we should be getting a deduction for having a meeting and eating.
Exactly.
I love it. So the more cheeseburgers I eat, because our audience knows I love cheeseburgers, more cheeseburgers I'm eating, so long as there's a good business reason, that's a deduction.
And you eat it at the restaurant, right?
I'll go right to McDonald's after the show and have meetings all evening. Sounds good. So I have to eat it there. Okay, that's fair enough. You have to eat it there, and you have to be with somebody that you're having a meeting with. Yeah. Oh no, that's of course only fair. But no, these are things. And Tom, what about someone who says to you, "But wait, I have an accountant, a CPA, a tax preparer, and I don't want to knock anybody, but why didn't they tell me this?" Is it just too much for the tax preparer to tell everybody everything, or is there an answer to that?
Yeah, I actually think the answer is that they're looking at their job differently than I look at their job. I think our job is to be the advocate my job is to be your advocate before the IRS, frankly. My job is to help you reduce your taxes. And a lot of accountants and tax preparers think it's their job to report your taxes, and that's their only job. So the question is, do you have a tax preparer or do you have a tax advisor? And that's really what you have to ask.
And that's actually very well put. a preparer puts things down on paper, I guess, as it's given to him or her. The other person advises, and that's a whole different, like a lawyer telling you this is a actionable case or it's not, or, how to carry out the steps that will safely get you to where you want to go.
Yeah, it's actually a different profession. I mean, your tax advisor should actually have somebody on their staff that's doing your tax return, because preparation of the tax return is an important part of tax advisory services. But there are just a lot of people that only prepare tax returns. They do not want to give a tax advice. They're not comfortable giving tax advice, and they don't really understand the tax law well enough to give tax advice. I will say one other thing. Your tax advisor, their number one job is to ask you questions, not give you answers. So if you want to know if your tax advisor is a good tax advisor, think back on the last time you met with them and did they ask you good questions?
And I think that's very well put and very interesting. And I think a question that a lot of people will be asking their tax person this year, are you my preparer or an advisor? Seriously. And just as an example in my own life, I was dealing with two tax people, we'll just call them that. And both fine people, both did excellent jobs, but one had said, you might be missing this. And it was a very significant new turn in the tax law that meant a lot of money. The other one, it just never occurred to him to mention it or to bring it up. So I think there can be a significant difference, as you said. And certainly if someone is looking for money, it might be literally sitting in their laps or, thanks to you, on their kitchen table. And first of all, I would start with the book Tax-Free Wealth, get a little feeling for some of the things Tom talks about. And then he mentioned you can go to his website, find out more, or bring these up to your tax preparer, etc.
And I would also say, give a copy of Tax-Free Wealth to your tax preparer. Let them read it. I've never had a tax preparer complain about it. So they will read it a lot of times, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, we can do that."
And again, if it benefits the person, it's well worth it. It's well worth the time. And as Tom said, it's permanently. So if you do this year, most likely a lot of these tax benefits are going to carry on into the future. Before we wrap up, again, I want to tell our audience the book is Tax-Free Wealth. It's by our guest, Tom Wheelwright, WHEELWRIGHT. He's a CPA. And Tom, please give us the website one more time.
It is wealthability.com, wealthandability.com, all one word.
And I'm just going to say, do you get residuals from this? If we save money this year, do we have to send you a check? Is that part of the deal?
Unfortunately, no. I get no residuals.
Maybe I gave you an idea. Maybe that's some new planning.
I will tell you this, though. We do find that some people, or a lot of people, they read Tax-Free Wealth. They want to press the easy button, and the easy button is to go to wealthability.com and schedule a call with us.
And honestly, this is an easy book to read. It's not what you expect when you think of a tax book. It's going to put some ideas in your mind, and get started early. Don't wait or put it off, because if you do, you're going to forget about it like most of us do. We tend to avoid those tax issues. So thanks to Tom. He makes it easy for us. Tom, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
I'd like our audience to know that you've been listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan, asking you to please join us again next week at the same time when we will continue our journey to success.